Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the YouTubes. I hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to our Reaper Basics 101 series. This is episode 5 today, and we are live. So if anyone has any questions, specifically about Reaper, but in general, fire away. But we're going to get straight into our topic today. So I've brought up a Reaper file. Pretty much just any old Reaper file is fine. What we're going to do is we are going to control this remotely using Reaper's new web control interface, which means that you can do this with an iPhone, you can do this with an iPad, Samsung phone, any brand of phone that's got a browser, a Raspberry Pi, laptop. Doesn't matter what your extra machine is, but a lot of places what you're going to find is, especially if you're recording yourself, you're going to get to a point where, you know, you sat behind the machine, you want to be in front of a guitar amp or behind a drum kit, or somewhere that is not next to the machine, and you don't want to have to keep running backwards and forwards. So there are some paid apps for this, but the guys who make Reaper have said, no, you know what, let's do this ourselves. There's not going to be an app. There's not going to be anything you have to go through a store to download. This is as simple as it gets. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing this. Today we're going to do this on my iPhone. And I have this new magical technology. So you'll be able to see here what I do on the side. So as I scroll, you'll be able to see exactly what I click. You'll be able to see some of my stuff on my calendar as well, but that's by the by. So, let's begin. So, the first thing you have to do is you have to get this set up. So, there are loads of different ways to control Reaper, and you set in the options which ones you want to use. Because there are so many, it would be insane of them to have everything enabled all the time. So you go into options and preferences. This is the same on a Mac, this is the same on a PC. Doesn't matter, platform independent. Options, preferences. At the bottom, I'm just going to get rid of that. At the bottom is the Control Osc Web Menu. Now, you can see here, there's already my iPad set up to use OSC. That is not what we're going to be talking about today. That is a separate app, and I've been using that for years, and I've made videos about it, but this that we're going to do today is very, very new. Hello to Gearhead Productions in chat. Hi. So, yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to hit the Add button, and it's going to give us a really kind of blank canvas that says Control Surface Mode. If we bring the drop down up, you can see all these different control types, and the one we want is this one that's only just appeared in the last couple of small versions of Reaper, Web Browser Interface. So, that comes up with a few options. The first one, run web server on port. Yes, we definitely want that. By default, it's 8080. If you have a firewall that's awkward, you can choose a port here and make sure that's open on your firewall if that's something you need to do. There's a username and password. I'm just going to call this derp with the password derp. So there's a colon in the middle. So it's username colon password. The default interface. There are a choice of a few, and we're going to start with one called index.html, and we might go through what you can do specifically. Now, there are a few different interfaces. The one that I find most useful for me is the one that's called index.html, but we'll come back to that. So, there's an option here, use rc.reaper.fm. If you look below it, this is the URL. This is the address that we're going to have to go to on our other device. If for whatever reason that's not working, or you're on a device where that's really awkward, you can tick this use rc.reaper.fm button. Put an ID in here, so let's call it sausage. It's just a known name, why not? And we hit apply settings, and that now gives us an access URL. So on any browser, as long as you are connected to the same network, I really have to stress that. So if your iPhone, iPad, whatever is connected to the same Wi-Fi network as your Studio PC, Studio Mac. I mean, they don't both have to be on Wi-Fi. As long as they're connected to the same network somehow, this will work. So I'm going to untick this use rc.reaper.f.fm button and hit apply because I'm going with the old school IP style. Now, it is as simple as that. We hit OK. And in control surfaces now, we have 192.168.1.64:8080. Looks a little bit ugly, but it does the job. So let's pull up our eFun right now. And I'm going to go into Chrome. Although you can do this in Edge, you can do this in Edge, you can do this in Safari, you can do this in any web browser on your phone. So what you do is you go into your address bar and you type in this number that Reaper has given you. So 192.168.1.64:8080, and I hit go, and watch what happens on the phone. Whole lot of nothing. I think I have to hit OK there. Go. Ah, yes. Authentication required. So the username we said was derp, and the password was derp. Log in. So if you're on a network where you need password protection, you can do that. For my studio, I probably wouldn't use the password thing, but you can. It's there, and it's great that they provided that. So that's come up with this screen. So if I hit play, and stop, play, pause, skip. I can skip forward and backwards. I can turn loop on and off. I can hit the record button, which is massive, and I can hit abort recording if for whatever reason that's what I want to do. And if I do that, firstly it says no tracks are armed because no tracks are armed. I could start record anyway. It's pulsing the records, so from a distance, if I put this on the floor while I play drums or whatever, I can still see it. I hit abort recording. Contents will be lost. Okay. So if you made a mistake and you don't want it to clutter up, you can do that. And that will record several takes. Now, that's not the only thing. This doesn't just do play and start and forward and back. If we scroll down a little, we start to get to the really clever bits. This lists every track that we have. And in this case, I have quite a big mix going on. So I've got 54 tracks going, but I can see them all. No bank switching, no clever stuff. They're all just right there. So let's say distorted guitar 1. This is what I've called them. So I could hit record on that right there. I can change whether it's got monitoring on or not. There's the end of the cable over here. So this is the end of the guitar cable, and with this monitored, I do that, it's on. If I turn that off, it's off. And that's all without touching the main production machine. So I can arm tracks, I can unarm tracks from maybe in the live room, or if I'm behind a drum kit, I can go and sit behind the kit. I can maybe play along to the kit, and then when I'm ready, I could hit record, and then I don't have to keep getting up and moving and going backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards. If I click on where it says 15 disc guitar 1, that's going to come up with mute solo. So I can mute it. There's a volume slider, which should do exactly what it says on the tin. There's my... It's reacting a little slowly, but it is working. I can turn the volume up and down here. Ah, no, that's right. Usually I would be able to, but the automation on here is on read mode. That's usually on the trim read mode. So now I should be able to, yeah, I can move the volume up and down. That was my settings in Reaper that were preventing me from doing that. That wasn't the control app. So now, if I go back and hit play, and then go back into there, so I can turn that quite a lot up. So I get detailed volume, mute and solo controls on every track from a phone, no less. The master, I can turn the main output on and off and have, if there's a second send going here, below where it says analog 1, analog 2 on this screen, just on my left, if that's got a secondary output, which is how I tend to work, then the aux button there would turn that on and off. Quite often I'll use that in the studio if I want, say, the live room to have a PA system in that's blasting out the same as the mix I'm hearing, but then the band want to listen through in the control room and we don't want to deafen everybody. I can just very quickly turn off the aux send right there and just listen in one room or the other. Very, very useful for stopping bleed whilst being sat somewhere else remotely. There was another thing that was really useful. If I look back at the distorted guitar, there was a button that said clone without media. This is really good, because say you've been sat next to your guitar amp or behind the drum kit, you thought that was a great take, but now you want to add something on top of it. Oh, Greg Knight missed it. What's the app called? That's the thing. There is no app. This is not an app. This is built into Reaper now. So you need the PC with Reaper on. You don't need it to have internet. You just need it to be connected to a network. So if this machine is connected to a network and the phone or other device, any other device is connected to the same network, this will work dead easy. So I'll quickly just recap what I went to. I went to options and preferences. So control, OSC and web, we added a web browser interface in Reaper's own settings, and Reaper is now making this web browser from scratch. So yeah, so if you want to go back and watch the start of this video, I'll show you in depth how to get through that. But this is one of the ways to control, and you can see I'm capturing this on my phone here, so you can see what's going on. How's the audio sync, by the way? Because I'm using a capture card and a different broadcast style and all sorts. It's been a bit of a fun ride. Anyway, that's the web browser as it is, but let's change the web browser style. So I'm going to quit out of that for a minute. Now I'm going to go back to options and preferences and back to this web browser interface. If I open that up with a double click, it comes back to the options. Oh, the audio, perfect, great, thanks. Okay, so where it says default interface index.html, let's change that to fancier.html because it is in fact fancier. So if I go back to the phone now, I'll have to reload this. Ooh, that's a very different interface. So I can slide. Oh, wow, that's going a bit too fast. But I can nudge slowly or quickly and skip right to the start again. I can go, oh, yeah, so I can actually see where the regions are on this. This is really cool. And hit play. Yeah, so this is counting. I can actually see it's a little herky-jerky at the minute. That could be because I'm trying to capture it and I've got a heavy mix going and, you know, I'm doing all these things all at once. But where it says 4 there, this song, if I just zoom out, this project has 4 regions. So it can see. So if I hit plus, what does that do? Not entirely. Oh, is it it's selected. Oh. It's put a marker in right there. Ah, it's right. So we can add markers and things remotely. Oh, this is really nice. So if I hit play, this is going to send me a lot of detail. Okay. Wow. Wow, as Owen Wilson would say. So on this fancier version, I can see every track. I can see what's got sends, what's got receives, whether the clip light's been hit, which is really useful. So let's turn something up until it clips. Something that's already quite loud. Distorted guitar 1. Let's turn that up. Ha! Still not clipping. Hooray for gain staging. Well, that's kind of weird, but... Ah! This one... Yeah, there's so much functionality in Reaper that just... Thing is, this didn't exist a couple of months ago. This didn't come in with Reaper 5. This just came in as and when the developers got round to it. They just went, oh, hey, by the way, we made this thing now. Which has always been the way with the Reaper developers. It's dizzying. They, if I go to the... How do I find it? Track manager. Yeah, the track control, we can't see... There we go. On the app, we couldn't see these tracks because I've hidden them on the track control panel. But if I put them back on the track control, they appear on the browser. And like I was saying, I'll say it again, this isn't just iPhone specific. This isn't even phone specific. This will work on iPads, this will work on, if you've got a Raspberry Pi on a little screen in the control room, that would work. So you can control this anywhere with anything. Ah, wow. So the bass is being sent on in this. So the guitar group, these are being sent. So the guitar group's being sent to a plate verb. And there's a thing called Angels, which is, in the case of this song, it's a pitch shifter with a delay after it, which kind of sounds, I describe it sounding like Angels, but let's hit play. So I can turn that send up and down, or just mute that send completely. So I can change every send level from here. Wow. So I can maybe I could be listening on headphones with a headphone amp in another room, using this to control what I hear from the mix, and change the amount of reverb send or something like that as I'm going. So, yeah, so the toms have got some plate reverb on. What if we said that was too much plate reverb? We take that down. Maybe we turn up the toms themselves. That's all right there. Maybe we mute them. Maybe we solo them. It's all just here. This is crazy. So I can skip to the start of this region, hit play. It tells me how many tracks are armed, so I can check. Does it route audio to the phone headphones? Not as far as I know, no. But like I was saying, this is not a phone app. This is a browser only. This is a browser control. So this works on any browser, anywhere. Maybe you've got, another computer in the building, in another room. You could change things from there. One of the things that really kind of piqued my interest is that was the fancier version. There was one called More Me. Now this one, the idea of this, I didn't actually get a chance to check this out properly, but the idea of this, right, so select your monitor track. Each performer requires their own monitor track to be recreated in Reaper. Set it to receive... Oh, I've never done that before. I just learned a new thing. If I drag the mixer to the side, it goes... Could route audio to the phone with another app? Maybe. Don't see why not. I mean, Reaper's got Restream, which does complete broadcasting of audio over IP. So, I mean, you could do that. That could work. It's a little crazy, but could work if that's what you want to do. I mean, hey, if you're on a Dante-based network, you could be doing this anyway. But that's the thing for another day because I'm not a Dante user. So select my monitor track. So if I insert track, select my monitor track. Give it a hardware send. Right, so let's give this... I mean, this is the same hardware send analog 1 and 2. But that's only because I'm using... are there other apps that allow sending audio? Not as far as I'm aware, no. That would be interesting. Oh, hello. So that one... so let's call this Steve. And let's make another one called Dave. So, right, so it looks for tracks that are not the master that have a hardware output. Right, so if you've got an interface with, let's say, 16 outs, so you've got 2 that are for your master, 2 for one member of the band for left and right, 2 for another member of the band, 2 for another member of the band. So I've just made 2 tracks called Steve and Dave. They're behind me on the screen, so I've made these 2. In this case, I've had to use the same hardware output because I'm only using a 2-channel interface, which means this won't quite work as expected. But let's just refresh this. But if you had a multiple output, so if I was at my main studio and I did this, I could then change as the musician my own mix without affecting the master mix in the control room, without affecting the guy next to me's mix, as long as those hardware outputs went to something like, say, headphone output that's just for me, then I could select monitor track. So in this case, it only has Steve. So let's send something to it. And turn off master on there as well. And let's just keep refreshing. Right, because there's some setup involved. But if I was to say yes, then now we can see I've got Steve or Dave. Just 2. So let's say I'm Steve. So the only thing that's been sent to me is that overhead slider. But I now have my overall volume slider. And I have the overheads. So I can now change on this app. So all you have to do, and like I said, this isn't an app, so all you had to do is get your musicians, make sure they've got their own headphone amp, headphone output, headphone mix with headphones on, get them to use their own phone, set up with your Wi-Fi in your building so that you're connected here, and that's it. You make sure they pick their own name, and they can then choose their own balance of everything for their own headphones. This is incredible. This is a real game changer. Because if I set my projects up now as templates so that I have, say, a drum group, bass group, guitar group, and then make sure that they're all sent to the right routing, any member of any band that's in my studio now could have their own headphone mix that they control, and they don't have to ask me, oh, can I have more of this, more of that? Which can save a lot of time once the initial setup's done, which you can do all this before the session. Or I could be doing this on day 1 whilst we get everything set up. I mean, it's bananas. So instead of them having to try and describe to me more of this, more of that, they can look through a list. So I've sent the overhead, so like Steve and Dave, they should be on the left. So let's say that the kick is, and the snare and the hats and the toms, so I'm just dragging that Steve thing over, and that's just dropping in, because it's another nice little trick in Reaper that if you just take a send and just drag and drop it, that will copy over. So if I give them the guitar group, in fact, if I don't want to give them the guitar group, if I want to give them separate guitars, if I want to give them all the separate guitars, trumpets, keys, it's not going to come up, I don't think. Oh, drums recording. So might have to refresh this now. Select your monitor track, Steve. Boom. So I can now affect that whole mix. So if I kept going with adding that, so I got as far as swell flutes, but if I kept going, piano, blah, 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 see how quickly I am doing this. So if I open up the vocal group and gave them the main vocal, and the backing vocals, and then they can have some of the room reverb, the slapback reverb, the plate reverb, all the separate effects. If they want more reverb, I mean, this is a big project because this was a full album mix, but if they want a full mix of everything, they just refresh, select their monitor track, and their mix of everything there, all these tracks that go miles and miles and miles. This is incredible because that's not affecting the master mix at all. That's not affecting what I would consider to be the mix. It's not changing the faders for my mix, which is kind of technically the important one. I think these have been sent. Yeah, these by default are sent post effects as well. But if you want to send something to a singer or drummer or whatever pre-effects, you just change that style. And this is just a remote control app. So that is some incredible control right there. If anyone's got any questions, now is the time, because I mean this is only going to be quite a relatively short stream today because it's one of those things there's a lot going on, but having said that, there's a lot to go at that I can show you. Do themes affect the web app GUI? No, they don't. Although it's served from HTML files. So you can go to the built-in pages, you can change them. Like if I open one on a browser here, I mean, this is just the raw HTML files. You can change how they look. You can change them yourself if that's how you really want to do things. Let's have a look at Click. Lyrics I know won't work for me. Lyrics.html on a remote app. If you've got a MIDI file in Reaper that's got the lyrics coming up at the right times, it can show those lyrics to whoever's watching the iPad at the right time. How good is that? Yeah, so click.html. I want to see what this is about. So I've changed it, so if I just hit go and refresh that. Oh, hello. Yeah, that's not very... Okay. So the click.html, that's going to be latency dependent. I think it takes a little time to correct itself and work out the latency on the network. And because my screen here has a different latency to the capture, it's hard to see, but it was, as far as my eyes could see, going 1, 2, 3, 4. So I could have that as a visual click to the side of me, remote controlled. And the last one I think was called Basic, which I looked at and does look disgusting, but is basic. So if you prefer a plainer setup, I can hit play and stop. And if you don't want it to be pretty, if you just want it to be very functional and you've got a really, really basic device you want to do this on, it's right there. Let's see what happens if I unlock the phone and then go. Ah, right, okay, so the top stays fairly similar, but it changes based on device. So I've changed the orientation of my phone, so bear with me a second while I change the look of this, because I've cropped this. Yeah, so there we go. So if I put the whole thing sideways, it looks more like that. It is ugly though, yeah. I mean, well, this is called basic.html. This is the basic layout. I would imagine This has been made by the guys who make Reaper. The reason they do this quite a lot, that they make a really basic version of everything that they do, so that if you want to skin it, if you want to make a theme for it, you can look at the code and see exactly what you need to do and work very quickly rather than having to like reverse engineer it. So let's go back to the fancier one and just see what happens on a wider screen with the fancy one. Right, okay, so we get a scroll which I'm very gently ticking, so I can go measures. It says 4:4. It's telling me the time signature. There's a little icon in the corner. Wow. So I pressed that button. I think I saw that on the upright version as well, where I've now got undo, redo, turn my click on and off, get rid of the clip, and if I scroll down, yeah, so it's bigger. So this is probably, yeah, I'll turn it back the other way. It's probably better on an iPad, this one. In fact, where is my iPad? Right, I'm going to just quickly unplug the phone. I'm going to grab the monster that is the iPad Pro. And I'm just going to quickly make sure that Chrome's not got any personal details on. No, it's fine. I'll just wait for that to come up. It's going to probably take a minute before... There we go. So the Elgato's now caught up. Because I'm using an Elgato capture card. So this is my iPad screen. And if we go to the same address, what was it? 192.168.1.64:8080. That number will be different for you because it's based on your network, and Reaper, you will set that up in. Nice find. Yeah, tell me about it. I'm going to start using this because I used to, way back in the day, do everything with an app. Oh, authentication required. Username derp, because that's what I set. Password derp. Login. Reaper Web. Oh, look at that. So that's my iPad screen now, and I can see all the fancy controls. Master. So if I, let's just see if I had a hard. No, I can't add another hardware output, can I? Don't think I can. But everything now is lining up nicely. So it's screen and resolution dependent. So if you've got a tablet, it doesn't have to be an iPad, it can be any kind of tablet. Or if you've got, you know, a screen somewhere that's got something attached to it, this is, you know, you can change and hit record on anything and everything. Oh, if I hit record, it changes the mute button to be the monitor button. That's handy. And you can see whether something's clipped or you receives and sends. So yeah, I'm going to be using this a lot because I'll say it one more time just before I go, that you don't need to pay for this. If you've got Reaper, you have this, it's inbuilt. If you get the latest version of Reaper, I'm on 5.7, then it will be in there. And you just do the setup that we described in the first 5 minutes and you're off. You choose which of these interfaces you want and boom. So I hope you find this one useful because I certainly am doing. So that is pretty much it today. Quite a short one, but can you scale it down a bit as well? Probably. I mean, if you're using a smaller screen, definitely. If I was to twist it that way there. This interface, I don't know, is the short answer. I mean, it looks like this particular one. Yeah, do website at 50%? Probably. This particular setup seems to have been done for phone screens. But the fact that you can do it sideways means it's for an iPad screen. I mean, my iPad Pro is Mahusive, but for a regular iPad, this would be quite nice, and for an iPad Mini, it'd probably be even nicer. So if you've got an iPad Mini, and they are less expensive, which means if you were looking at getting something for remote control, hey, less expensive is more good, right? So, unless there's any more questions, I think I'm going to leave it there. So one more time, thank you everybody for watching, and check out our Patreon if you haven't already, because that's the way that we fund doing videos like this. I mean, it's instead of being in the studio doing studio stuff, you know, like working with clients, if we're working on YouTube stuff and we want to do more of this kind of stuff, we need to keep a roof over our heads. So if you can give us, you know, $1 or something on Patreon, I know it sounds like I'm begging, but if you can help us out, then we can do more of these kind of videos. We already try and get 3 out a week and it's killing us, but you know, we do what we can. And if we could do this more full time, then I'm sure you guys will get more out of it. So check that out. Thanks for watching, and I'm Adam Steele for the Hot Pole Studios, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye, guys. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this, feel free to check out our other videos, as you can find here, or check out our Facebook and Twitter, or our Patreon page, which helps us to make more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.